Welcome to another episode of Coffee with the Candidates. We have Sam Hummel with us here today, and he is a candidate for Yankton City Commission. Once again, election day is April 8th. There will be absentee or early voting that will be starting before that, and all the information can be found out about voting here in Yankton on Yankton Thrive's website, yanktonsd.com. Sam, thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, why don't you go ahead and let the viewing audience know a little bit about yourself?
So I'm originally from Yankton. I grew up actually outside of Utica. I graduated Yankton High School. Moved to Vermillion to complete my studies, so I got a master's in business administration there. While I was doing schooling in Vermillion, I actually worked in Yankton. I've worked for Ace Hardware, a local trucking company, and I worked for Aztec. In 2019, my job was going to change at Aztec, so I did a career change and I went from manufacturing to a school district in Wyoming, where I lived from 2019 to 2023. And while there, I learned a lot about local government. You know, being a director at a school district, I knew who the school board members were. I knew the process of how they got elected, what they were there to do, versus what the superintendent was there to do. My role made me work with various municipalities. I had to work with the transportation committee, and the city had a transportation planning group, a whole bunch of special interest groups, and I had to work together as we were subdividing and growing the city of Yankton and making sure we could get kids to school safely. And as we were building schools, we built a new school and a new bus garage while I was there, and having those important conversations with the elected officials and what it looked like moving forward really interested me. So when I moved back here, I volunteered or nominated myself for the County Planning Commission. And in the last year on there, I've kind of really growing to understand how the county and the city need to intermingle. The city and the school system needs to play ball, and all the other municipalities that kind of feed into each other. And I just decided, I said, city commission should be a good stepping stone or a platform for me to help make that happen.
So I just want to clarify, you inadvertently said City of Yankton that you were working for in Wyoming.
Oh,
Which
sorry.
city was that?
I was working for Park County School District 6 in Cody, Wyoming,
Okay.
and I had to work with the city of Cody.
City of Cody. Okay, I wanted to make sure that was clear for everyone. And then for the viewing audience, we're recording this on February 20th. So all of the candidates for City Commission have not all turned in their petitions yet. So in all fairness, my question of what sets you apart from the other city candidates, you are not actually comparing yourself to the other city candidates because not everyone has turned their petition in.
Yeah.
But what might set you apart from other people who may be turning in their petitions?
Yeah, so I have a unique perspective. I've worked in manufacturing, which is one of the heartbeats of the Yankton economy. I have worked and been around farmers, which is another heartbeat of the Yankton community. I have seen how other districts or cities have worked and operated because I have lived elsewhere. And I just feel like I come up with a really efficient solution. My role as problem solving is I understand every time we create a solution, we make another problem. So we need to understand the causation and like the effect that we're going to cause with what we are going to do. Also, I feel like I'm pretty laid back, and I'm not here for an agenda. I'm here to serve the people, and I think that's where we need to be. Is we need to be transparent, and we need to really be welcoming to the public.
So in your opinion, what is the role of a city commissioner?
So Yankton's a little unique in a couple aspects, actually. So I've seen a lot of concern, and actually among all my friends, they ask what does a commissioner do, man? And I'm like, okay, so let's talk about that. Let's kind of unpack that a little bit. And so when I said that, I said, Yankton is a council and a manager relationship, and that's a style of government. Other cities have council-mayor relationship, which is what they call a strong mayor. And that strong mayor is truly elected separate from the commission. It's elected separate from the council, and they report to work every day. They help out with the day-to-day operations and just kind of the inner workings of the city. Yankton, on the other hand, is a commission that then works through a manager to achieve the goals. So the commissioners are there to set that kind of vision for the city, policy for the city, and then also have a report card with the various positions that report directly to the commission, making sure that they're aligning themselves and their performance to the overall vision of the commission. And so what I'm intrigued about is truly how policy can affect the community as a whole. What can we do? What statutes are out there? What policies are already there and in effect that could be updated to get with the times or to help really align it to the vision of the city?
Which that segues very nicely into the next question of the city is working on updating the comprehensive plan. Do you have any thoughts on that plan, and what are some things that should maybe be included?
So the city's comprehensive planning process has been around for a while, and we're looking out at 2020 or 2045 currently with the comprehensive plan. That's kind of the strategy. It should mostly be done by the time this new commission takes into effect. I really am passionate about like sidewalks and just mobility for all, and we have a section in the comprehensive plan for that. I mean, and we have done a good job. I mean, growing up here, I didn't realize how lucky we were to have the Oddbro-Cottrell system. I didn't realize how lucky we were to be able to safely go from my grandma's house to Kmart or whatever and not feel like we had a lot of pedestrian and motor vehicle interaction. And living where I lived in Wyoming, we did not have that. We did not have streets that aligned. So we couldn't really install stoplights because you'd only be stopping three waves of traffic basically. And we built a new middle school back in the early 2000s, and then kind of the town grew around it, but there wasn't really the planning of one day kids are gonna have to walk to school, and Yankton did that. Yankton squared things off to the best of their ability. Yankton has really looked at, a sidewalk on this side of the street versus a sidewalk on this side of the street. What helps us funnel people safely to where they need to go. I would continue to grow on that. I think West Cinemas Road is going to become, I don't want to use the word problem, but I think as we continue to grow beyond West Cinemas Road, it's not going to be West Cinemas Road anymore. It's going to be a city street. And navigating that and figuring out how to get those families to the high school or figuring out how to get those families to other services in the community safely is going to be a big concern that if it's not already addressed will need to definitely be looked at.
So I will say that in your intro, when you talk about living in some other place, you really have identified how that helps you view your hometown differently, having that experience of being in another community that may have done some things better, but maybe some other things not as good as we have here in Yankton.
Yeah, really it did. I mean, you move out there and you buy a house, and I remember when I moved out there and home prices were significantly higher than they were in Yankton, and wages weren't necessarily a ton higher. And I just remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like this is scary. This is a new adventure. And then as you live there and you start to kind of figure out some of these nuances, and exactly right, there were some things they did really, really well. And there were some things that as the town was growing, we always say Cody was a little town that's kind of getting bigger. People are moving out of Jackson and moving to Cody. And because of that, there's some challenges. I mean, when I left, we were looking at doing an overpass to get kids from some new developments to the school because we put a crosswalk in, we were trying to work and just kind of going through that process of doing a traffic study and all this, even though we knew kids had to cross there and we had to understand the warrants. So we had to have so many people during peak hour cross at that crosswalk before the Department of Transportation would consider some sort of additional support. And so, yeah, I've always been thankful since moving back here that my kid can walk to Memorial Park if she wants to, and middle school is definitely within reach of her at that age, and in some communities that's not the case.
So setting a city budget and establishing priorities is an important component of being a city commissioner. How will you navigate this process, and what are some of your priorities?
So I worked for a school district, so I'm very familiar with tax mill and how funding comes into I would say nonprofit, we're going to say municipality. What we did as directors, we took the previous year's budget, really took a deep look at it, brought in all the department heads and asked, are your services changing this year? If so, how are they going to change? What are we doing? Well, we're going to be picking up in this new subdivision, so that's going to be an extra bus route or whatever it is. Or, hey, we're going to be supporting, we started a softball team at the high school. Well, that's a different sport, so we're going to need coaches' salaries, we're going to need gear, we're going to need, okay, well, that's different than previous year's budget. After you meet with all the department heads, you need to really sit down and start looking at the priorities, the wants versus needs, the what we could do today versus what maybe can wait till tomorrow, and then you formulate the budget. And so the city of Yankton does a budget to zero method of budgeting, which means we need to be really responsive to changes. So if we budget all expected income, and hopefully we forecast a little bit conservatively so that way we're in a good shape, we need to be really responsive. So if something happens in water and it's a huge unplanned expense, we have to respond accordingly with the budget. And so setting the budget really is an important process. And when you prioritize, you need to prioritize what affects the constituents the most.
So the Meridian Bridge is an iconic and unique asset to Yankton. What process would you propose or support regarding long-term plans for the bridge? It might include repair, removal, and how would we fund all of that?
So the Meridian Bridge is iconic to Yankton. It's in every marketing piece. It's pretty much almost like a cornerstone of our community, and we know it's coming. It just celebrated its birthday, and as many of you know, when you celebrate your birthday, you don't feel the same you did previously. We know it's coming, and we have to figure out a way to bear that burden without maybe necessarily putting it on just the people of the Yankton community. It is probably too big of a burden for the city of Yankton to handle by ourselves. So that's where we start talking. We start being proactive today and start raising a fund today and work with people who are interested in it. It's been marketed for the community. It's been used by so many special interest groups. I know while I was in Cody, they actually had a federal access to land program where for national parks, national forests, things of that nature, if you could prove whatever feature you were saving was, or supporting, updating, repairing, is helping people have access to public national lands, there was money. With a change of administration, that type of money probably won't be there. So we may have to look at various fundraising. We may need to get a special interest group together that can maybe lay out some options. I would hate to put a tax on somebody or a specific district of the community that is closely, proximity to the Meridian Bridge. I would prefer to look at proactive ways where we're maybe using outside of Yankton money. So, do we need to put some QR codes up? And when I come with my family and I stay at the lake and I come and walk the bridge, I can scan the QR code. It's going to be low, it's going to be small, but that incremental funding from outside sources may eventually help us get a fund together or a nest egg that we can work off of moving forward. Like I said, it's going to be grants, it's going to be historical buildings and societies, it may be a lot of private donation, just realizing the value to the Yankton community, but we need to keep something there, whether it's repairing that or eventually down the road talking about replacing it with a true pedestrian bridge. Something needs to be there. It is a huge part of our way of life.
So what are your 3 favorite things about Yankton?
My buddy asked that question in so many words, and I really think it's the community, the culture, the collaboration. So we have the community, we have business owners that have invested and continue to invest in Yankton. I talked to a business owner who had 3 locations. I said, well, out of all the locations, why are you here? This is the community I want to be in. They welcome people, they bring people in, this is why I'm here. Okay, so then we have the culture piece. We don't lose sight that we're right along the river. We don't lose sight that we have very important industry in town. We have manufacturing from small electronic components to big rock crushers. We don't lose sight that we're the job hub for a 35-40 mile radius. We don't lose sight, though, that we also have the agricultural interests nearby and, in some cases, right inside town or right outside of town. We have the college, so that brings a whole unique culture to town. I mean, you go to Vermilion, they got 10,000 college kids, but Mount Marty has done such a good job. I mean, my daughter has gone to tennis camp and volleyball camp at Mount Marty, and all of these things to get really intertwined. They're very community facing, even though they're maybe smaller than USD. And so that's kind of that culture piece. And then the collaboration piece is truly the ideas flow here. Last year, I went to the Parks Board with an idea for a bicycle park. That's the one thing I really do miss from Wyoming is living in the mountains, riding a mountain bike, and we had a bicycle park right outside of town, and it was great for the kids. It was designed for kids who had Strider bikes all the way up to adults, and I was heard. They listened to me. They gave me my time. They told me the next steps. They allowed me a chance to gather some people and get some information and get stuff rolling. I never heard no. I always heard, well, maybe not that place today, or it was not a no though. It was definitely we can turn all these humps into a yes, and we can get this done. This is what it looks like, and so that was probably part of the city commission reason I'm running is like I had such a positive experience with the Parks Commission. Like I said, I felt heard. I felt like we had some momentum, and that was one voice. So I'm excited to see what we can do when there's a lot of voices.
Yeah, that is one of the things that Yankton has done a good job at trying to be receptive to new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I also deal with a lot of other communities, and it's been great to see how proactive we can be in some of those situations compared to other communities. So the library has been a topic recently regarding their need for expansion. Share with us your thoughts on the library.
So the library is something that this commission is definitely going to have to deal with. The newly elected officials this year will have to deal with the library in some capacity. I mean, we're going to have to figure out the location, the size, what needs can we fulfill today, what needs do we need to plan for down the road, so 20 years from now we're not in the same bind, so to speak. I don't foresee that library being in the downtown district. The community's moving to the north, it's growing to the north, and we need to look at accessibility from maybe the schools and the surrounding communities. That would be the biggest concern for me is the where, and make sure we put it somewhere that makes sense. We want to engage the community. Libraries are important. They do a lot of really important things for our community. When I lived here before, I used to go there for the gardening club and learn about seeds and how to use beets and stuff, and that was as an adult. I mean, I was like 22, 23. I was gardening, and it was awesome. My daughter goes there for various functions, and so we have to figure out the needs of today and the needs of the future and what we can truly raise and save and pay for as a community, and where we maybe need to look at a strategic partnership, or is there ways to use the space for additional resources, and so that way that partnership we can help pay or do some cost sharing. I know long term it may be nice for the city of Yankton to have its own meeting place for the commission. We don't currently have that. We use the RTEC, which is city-owned land or school district-owned property, and it will be school district building here soon. It may be nice for the city to eventually get their own area to hold its meetings.
So you might not want to share right now, but do you have any thoughts on the north side where maybe the library should go?
So that's hard, that's going to be a challenge. Yankton is in a really odd spot now. So FEMA's flood map has come in, and it's kind of changed some of the area that was reserved for growth. It didn't take it off the table. It just maybe changed when it will be prioritized to be grow or develop, I suppose. And so it may fall in line that north area gets developed before this library goes into place, right? we want to make sure it's accessible. We want to make sure kids can get there from the middle school or from Trailhead Learning Center or any of the elementaries. It may be a repurpose of land. It may be, do we have something that's aging that we can use? But yeah, it's going to have to definitely hear the people where they want to see it. Or, I mean, it needs to be surrounded by people that understand the function of the library, and understand maybe the hours and the parking lot and the cars. And you don't want to just plop it in the middle of a residential district too if it's a non-conforming use. So there's going to definitely be some various comments from the stakeholders of where it should be, and we need to be receptive to that. And we also need to look at where the growth will be happening. So maybe it isn't the north, maybe it's closer to the high school area if there's going to be all that growth on West Simmons Road next. That's all planned growth for the city. So,
having served on county planning and zoning, I'm sure you are very familiar with FEMA and areas for development. Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up, because there's a lot of people who don't understand how that really is impacting growth and development in the region.
Yeah.
So relationships and collaboration, as you have already mentioned, they are important within the community. What role can you play as a commissioner to help build, maintain, or repair relationships?
I guess I deal with people all day long, and I'm a pretty much a straight shooter. So I've said it before. We may disagree. Doesn't mean your opinion's any lesser than mine, right? So there are various interest groups, and there's various people who want to see something done this way, or even entities, right? And we may have to tell them the why. And I mean, I have a kid, so I get asked why a lot. But at work and in industry, we call it a 5 why. You need to answer the question why 5 times. And if there is no legitimate reason why you're doing it this way, and you just keep coming back to, well, it's the way it's always been done, that's not what we should be doing. We need to be like, okay, we can do something different. We can review our policy or our procedures. Again, if you ask why 5 times and it's like, well, state statute says, city policy reads, if we did it for one entity, could we sustain it and do it for all entities? Oh no, then that's the answer. And we may leave the table with a disagreement, but your opinion and your perspective's no less important to me. I just want to be able to answer the why.
So if you could change something in Yankton today with your magic wand, what would that be?
Being that I came back from another community, I wanted to say, well, yeah, Yankton's perfect, and it's not, right? When you get anything so big, right? We have roughly 15,000 people. We have, 300 or 400 employees. We have people from other communities that come in and spend the majority of their day, majority of their week here. We have county residents that come to spend, right? It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be a one-size-fit-all. Everyone says, I'm happy with this decision. I think we need to look at the new population that's moving to town. We need to really look long and hard at the demographics that's taking these key jobs in our community in manufacturing. And we need to make sure we can support them, and we can make sure that they are going to invest in this community. Well, at Vacher, we had several engineers who, came here and like to buy a house, but when they come available, they're gone too quick. The length of time to save it after becoming, an engineer and having student loans and all that sometimes takes a while for them to get their feet under them. Well, during that time, a life change happens and they move to another community, and now we lost somebody. We lost an investment in Yankton. When I looked at Kohlberg's, it was trying to get welders to Kohlberg's. We go to STI or go to Mitchell Tech or even go down to Norfolk, and that was the biggest concern is, well, I'm making the same money here. I got a place to live here. Tell me to move up there to make the same money, but I may not have a place to live. How does that pencil out, And so American dream is to own property. We need to figure out how to get people here working in these highly critical jobs, and we need to get them in their own property as soon as possible so that they can remain invested in our community.
So, in closing, is there anything that you wanted to share with the viewing audience that was not a part of a previously asked question?
Yeah, so I kind of just joke. We do want the ideas to flow here. We want that open line of communication. We don't want the people to flow through here. We don't want people to come here, get their 3 to 5 years of experience, and leave. We want families here. We want involved and engaged families here. That's how all these projects work. That's how the mall stays busy and gets more stores. That's how manufacturing companies add depth to their knowledge base and their workforce. Um, if we continually miss the boat or maybe only attract one demographic, we won't have the community. We just won't. We will see an aging community. They tend to spend less towards the later years of their life. They spend more on healthcare, which is one of our largest employers in town. But they may not do as much. They may not engage with the Mead Museum, or they may not engage with some of these awesome things that we offer. So I wanna win Yankton. When we sell Yankton to people, to companies to come here, Yankton should win. And so that comes with affordable housing, cost of living, things that we can manage. If people are feeling the squeeze from the taxes, or they're feeling the squeeze from their utility bills, or just the overall home costs, that's a decision. When you move, you take all that into account. You're like, ooh, I don't know if that pencils out, right? We need to win, and we have to figure out how to be that attractive destination that's so easy to sell, that we win people, and then they stay and they have such a good time that they invest, that they run for city commission one day, or that they get on one of our special interest boards.
Well, Sam, thank you very much for joining us here today and putting your name in the hat to potentially be one of Yankton's next city commissioners. Once again, Election Day is April 8th. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.